After 11 long years, the body of Lieutenant Hadar Goldin has finally come home as chilling new testimony emerges from hostages and horrific sexual abuse. With Hamas refusing to disarm and these revelations shaking the nation to its core, is Israel on the brink of a final decisive confrontation? And in New York, a shocking leaked video reveals who's funding newly elected anti-Israel Mayor Mamdani, God help us. We're unpacking it all right here on The Quad. Welcome back, everybody, to The Quad, and here in our Jerusalem studios with my wonderful co-hosts, Emily Schrader, human rights activist and journalist, Shoshana Keats-Jaskell, founder of Chokhmat Nashim, Elevating Orthodox Women's Voices, and a special guest co-host all the way from London, Stephen Phillips. You may know him as Lord Stephen Phillips from X, but he is the executive director of Jewish ERGs, and he's going to explain to us what that is a little later. Welcome back, and we have a show for you. Hadar Goldin's remains come back to Israel after 11 years, after an incessant campaign by his family and, of course, Hamas as ever trying to do tricks in the last minute not to return the body. And on top of all of that, we have these harrowing tales of sexual abuse coming from one of the captives who came back. Look at this.
הפשיטו אותי מכל הבגדים, תחתונים, הכל. קשרו אותי אלימות מינית, וזה בעיקר המטרה שלה להשפיל. המטרה שלו הייתה להשפיל אותי. לדרוך לי את הכבוד, וזה בול מה שהוא עשה.
עשו עוד דברים עשו את זה?
כן. וזה קשה, זה הדבר הנוראי. זה משהו שהנאצים לא עשו אותו.
But as Hamas is refusing to disarm, are we looking into another showdown? We're seeing what's going on in Lebanon. They're rearming. They're moving south. Are we going to see a second round of this whole entire war? Again, Emily, what do you have to say?
Yes.
Again?
Yes.
Oh,
I do think we will see another round. And
of everything?
well, yeah, because I mean, we already know that from like literally within days of the Iran-Israel conflict ending in June, they were trying to build up a new proxy in Sudan. They have just in the past year, despite all of the sanctions, despite all of the obstacles that the regime is facing in Iran, they've sent over $1 billion worth to Hezbollah to rebuild in Lebanon. So of course it's going to happen.
Meanwhile,
we have Hamas that hasn't been completely obliterated, another proxy of the regime. It's not going to go until the regime goes.
Sending $1 billion with a country which is starving and thirsty. And this is what we have in Iran. Lebanon, the Lebanese army haven't managed to control the Hezbollah forces. They had a golden opportunity. And what's going to happen with Syria, God knows, because Al-Jarrah, or whatever his name is, Jolani, is playing basketball in the White House. Shoshana.
I don't even know what to say. I feel like I don't, Emily usually is very on point with these things. So I'm a little bit sad to hear her say yes, because I'm like, no, like I just like got the mamad cleaned out. Like I just got used to not hearing sirens and not worrying about where my kids were and not thinking about all the chayalim. Like it's almost like it's too good to be true that they're all going to come home and bury, and the ones who, you know, are still not home. And round two, this is round 67, 30 million. Like, I don't know. How do you get rid of Hezbollah when they don't want to be gotten rid of? How do you get rid of Iran when they don't want to be gotten rid of? I don't have an answer. I don't know.
Well, lets you assist the people in overthrowing the Islamic Republic of Iran, as they have been begging for 40
what does that
years.
look like? Honestly,
Yeah,
what would
It looks like investing in infrastructure that can supply internet to them in the times of protest. It looks like, if possible, arming them. It looks like supporting opposition groups in order to have a united opposition. It looks like full enforcement of sanctions and holding regimes like Russia and China accountable.
But you're talking about
sanction
the world.
evasion. I mean, their oil exports are the highest that they've been since 2015 in the last year. How do you explain that?
Didn't they
at a
just-
time when there's unprecedented sanctions?
Didn't we just, exactly, they just put the sanctions back on them. So
but no one is enforcing those who are helping them evade, like China and like Russia.
And ultimately, they're the head of the snake, and all of the exported terrorism is coming from them. But I think the difference is now, at least with Gaza, that we're on that yellow line, which is 53% of the strip, and we're not moving. And these people are not rearming. And so if it only means that we've enclosed the terrorists a little bit more, and they now have to worry about how they manage their own people, which is going to be a big challenge for them, not us, maybe that's a little bit of a victory. Stephen, welcome.
I think the saddest thing for me, and thank you for having me, what a badass collection of people to be standing next to. The saddest thing for me is to hear me say yes, because this is my 4th trip to Israel since the war started. I was here on October 7th. There's a whole collection of things that happened. And this is the first time it feels like the cloud has just shuffled and shifted away a little bit. I landed, you haven't got so many faces, it's just a few. And everything feels a little bit more whatever normal is in this country. I'm not sure what normal is here.
Yeah.
But it does feel a bit post. So to hear Emily kind of, yes, is like, oi, I don't think we can do it as well. How many chocolate bars can we send you? Like, really, it's enough.
I think we're just realistic, and ultimately you're dealing with a mentality that doesn't believe in peace, they just believe in hudna, which is the peace between the wars, which is basically what Israel has gotten used to, our whole entire modern state existence here, the peace between the wars, and that's how we incredibly thrive as an economy. By the way, people don't talk about this, and they want to be doom and gloom about Israel's economy. The Israeli shekel is the strongest it's been, and a war hasn't knocked it down. Now, why is that? People are asking, why is that? Because very quietly, there's so much investment. There's so many AI data centers being done quietly. NVIDIA has invested so much money here. The concentration of AI talent in the world is here. And so, you can hate us all you want, but ultimately, we hold here a lot of that database intelligence that is going to be running the world. And people don't seem to understand that when you want to boycott us, you're in fact boycotting yourselves, which brings me to Mamdani. My God, I was in New York last week.
Lovely.
And I started the day I met with some Jewish friends of mine who'd been very involved in the Cuomo campaign. And at the beginning of the day, everybody was a little positive that maybe, like Trump, the polls got it wrong and people didn't want to admit they were voting for Cuomo. And then as the day progressed, it got increasingly...
It wasn't a landslide, but because there was the additional... Because they had SOA, so it was...
Yeah, but
even if he had went in there, he would have lost by 32,000 votes.
It still would have lost. I blame the Jews for Mamdani, to be honest, but that's a whole other thing. But guess
there aren't that many Jews in New
Cuomo
York.
was not a good candidate.
He was never...
Well, for sure. You could blame the Democrats.
When you have a person who is, an alleged sex predator, like, that's not exactly a great candidate to run.
He's right.
No.
It's true.
It wasn't...
Two bad choices, no one wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, New York definitely lost, and the Social Democrats of America have got their little laundry list of what they want Mamdani
They're
to
just
do.
going forward with their plan.
But everything, there's not one thing that hasn't got something to do with boycotting Israel. Not one thing. Not the free buses. I mean, these are the Social Democrats of America. So nothing to do with socialism, only to do with Jew hatred, because that was their agenda all along. And guess who admitted was helping Mamdani all along? The very biggest scumbag that we've had many, many times, but we're not going to dedicate too much time to her, Linda Sarsour.
And Care.
And Care.
Right now, I'm a little more quiet because I'm on the quiet side of this race, but I'm going to tell you that once November 4th comes around, I will tell the story. The story is not just, that it's random that Zohran ascended to this place. It is our Muslim American communities. And I'll also say that it's Muslim money. The PACs that have supported Zohran, or a particular PAC that has supported Zohran, is probably over 80% of Muslim American donors in this country, high net donors, grassroots donors. And I want to make the point that the Unity and Justice Fund PAC, which is the CARE Super PAC, was the largest institutional donor to the pro-Zohran PAC in New York.
So basically, Mamdani, as I think Bellamy said last week, is the perfect, he's the baby of wokeism and Islamism. They would have had a baby. That's Mamdani. And that's what we have. What's going on in London with your mayor?
It's great. We love it. It's really wonderful. I recommend it. It's really funny to me. I've spent a lot of time in New York as well this year. And New York is always crazy, right? But as the election got closer, I was there just before Rosh Hashanah, and it felt crazier than it had ever been. It was like they were preparing for the next round of crazy. But I think they fancy us. They're so obsessed with us. I can't think of any other reason why. They just won't leave us alone. What are they with the Jews? Like, they want to be us? What is this? It's crazy.
I
Well,
really
what's
don't.
crazy is it's happening on the right and the left right now. Like everyone is obsessed with us. Either they love us or they hate us, but there's nothing else in the universe. Apparently, there are no other issues in America other than Israel.
Or
That's
Sudan
the
or
only thing going
Nigeria.
on.
It's the only thing going on, and that's really a very scary thing. You know, the other day I went to the cinema. I never go to the cinema anymore. But I went to the cinema to watch a really good film that I recommended everybody watch called Nuremberg. So it was all about how...
Sounds uplifting.
No, but it
Nice
was
light film you watched.
yeah, very light, rom-com. But it was, it's very relevant to today because it was basically all about how they got to the idea of trying the Nazis under what jurisdiction and how this could be an international. Now in Israel, there's a debate. How do we try the Nukhba terrorists? How do we do it? What is the mechanism that we do? Do we actually put them to death? Which I think everybody around the table agrees that we should.
All about yeses today.
Is there going to be a war? Yes. Should we try the Nukhba terrorists and hang them? Yes. And should Israel be stopping Lebanon or the Hezbollah in Lebanon in its tracks? We've gone back to basically trying to bomb them to go back to their lines. And of course, the world is accusing us of breaking the ceasefire, even though they broke the ceasefire by rearming. And so where is this all going to end?
Ceasefire, they're breaking international law. They're breaking 2 different UN resolutions.
They're breaking the one of moving.
No, one in 1559.
Oh, I'm surprised.
Which is disarmament. Yeah, shocking.
Yes. And the international troops that were placed there, I mean, they were completely useless UNIFIL.
Yeah.
They don't have a UNIFIL now. I don't know who's monitoring whatever ceasefire it is, but it's almost like the world wills it to be a ceasefire. We also want a ceasefire, but the reality of the situation is that these jihadists have momentum. And the reason why they have momentum is because of Mamdani and the fact that the world is going along with this craziness. Where will it end?
I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I don't think we want a ceasefire. We want peace. We happen to accept a ceasefire because it gives us some quiet.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the hard truth. They don't want either, really.
They don't want either.
They just want, like you said before, the peace,
Rearm.
the peace between the pieces.
Yes. The peace between the wars.
Yeah.
It's really kind of depressing.
Lebanon's government actually, I think for a long time, did not say anything when we were taking out terrorists, because they really do want, I think, they don't want Hezbollah, that they want them out, but they really just seem incapable of joining that officially because of all of the pressure around them and all of the...
Well, somebody explained it to me and they said maybe they just don't know how. They've been so many years. They've had this state within a state. They've had Hezbollah literally here, that they don't know how.
I don't know.
And remember, Hezbollah is very integrated in the government itself.
Exactly.
I mean, they've held this entire country hostage. And I want to clarify again for anyone watching that when we say Hezbollah, we mean the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Yeah.
That's who's occupying Lebanon. And that's who's behind it. That's who's funding it.
Yes.
And that's been their mission from day one with the establishment of Hezbollah in Lebanon. So it's a disaster for Lebanon.
It's a disaster for Lebanon, and unfortunately, they're on our border, and we have wonderful people in the north of Israel trying to rebuild these communities in a new light, with vision, to try and really resuscitate, but also make the north thrive. We have the same down south. I mean, this can be an opportunity for Israel, but if we still have these people and these threats, what are we going to do?
They've gone home. I've got friends that live on the border. They were away for like a year and a half.
Yes, they were not
living in these crazy conditions with parents and all sorts. All the kids
in hotels.
In hotels. All my friends were in their parents on the kibbutz. It was like 1,000 people in one tiny house.
Yes.
They want to go back, but they can't go back if someone's literally like peeping over the border at them, gonna fire at them. It's crazy.
The problem. This is my criticism of the Israeli government for many years, of both in Gaza and in Lebanon and elsewhere, that like we're mowing the grass. And it doesn't, it's just over and over and over again, 2008, 2012, 2014, 2021, and also now. Like okay, yeah, you have a few years of calm, you have a few years of peace where these societies can advance, or, you know, these communities can rebuild in some cases, and that's great. It's better than a constant state of war, but at the same time, like, if you're gonna have to fight a war, then just finish the job. Like, why does our government never finish the job?
Well,
and I know now there was political considerations with the relationship with the United States, but they could have done it before. Why didn't Netanyahu deal with this before any of the other times?
But isn't there a vacuum? Like, let's say, okay, so you get rid of Hamas. Who comes in next?
Don't get rid of Hamas. Get rid of the head of the snake.
Well, I'm with you on Iran, by the way. The sadness for me was that we finished the war with Iran when we did, and we didn't go all the way and kill Khamenei. And the reason we didn't was because the Americans didn't want us to go all the way. And the reason the Americans didn't want us to go all the way is because their own flank of the Republican Party, the isolationist flank, who think somehow they're there to do us a favor rather than the fact that, we're doing them a favor, stopped us. And that's, to me, I was very sad for the Iranian people that we didn't help them. But again, who comes in there? Who comes in place?
Right.
Well, inside of Iran, I mean, I think that you could do a whole episode on only this. There's a lot of different opinions. In terms of a single figure, yeah, he's the most popular. But even that, I don't know that he has a majority of people, or we don't know that he has a majority of people inside of Iran. But there is an entire transition plan that he has put forward, not to rule, but to oversee an interim period in order to have a referendum. So there is a lot of planning that's going into that, and they're trying to work with the U.S. government as well as other European governments, and they've made some progress. But the thing that's standing in the way is the West. That is they don't need them to start a war and overthrow the regime. They need them to stop propping up the Islamic Republic, which they continue to do, whether it's through non-enforcement or other deals that they're making. And we've seen it happen time and time again. And it's going to keep happening. And one more thing I want to mention that's really important to understand is that the Houthis stated yesterday that they would start bombing Israel again if they see that the Gaza ceasefire is not holding. We've kind of like mocked the Houthis and made fun of their, ballistic missiles that are being fired here and there. And of course, they're dancing.
We don't take them seriously.
We need more dancing. I would more dancing.
Yeah.
We really are. I haven't seen a
dancing
video.
and not the.
We haven't had a dancing video in a long time. Like, we need another dancing video for our,
Sanity.
sanity.
Yeah.
I love the thought of they sit around the camp, like, which department do you want to be in? I want to fire missiles. I want to be the dancing troop.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And they go onto the boats with the Israeli flag. Yeah.
Insane.
Looks like a party. But in any case, we know that Iran is pouring whatever resources they have, or I should say the Islamic regime is pouring whatever resources they have into the Houthis and these proxies, and they're going to build them up. Why? Because even with all of our bombing campaigns and the United States of America bombing Yemen, we didn't do anything effectively. We didn't really do anything in terms of actually knocking out the Houthis, which means that now the Islamic Republic is going to double down on the Houthis, and it's going to be worse because, again, all we did was mow the grass.
But, don't they have their own problems? I heard...
No, nothing matters but us.
That they're starving. They've got no water, and in 2 months, they're going to run out of money and have to move the capital, Tehran.
Yeah.
You're in a situation where you're moving your capital, and you think you won, and you're still exporting terrorism and $1 billion? Isn't this, honestly not sustainable? I don't understand how they're still being...
The whole movement's suicidal. They're not looking for sustainability. They're suicidal. They're suicidal, on the individual level. They're suicidal on the national level. Of course, it makes no sense to us. We're just build, create, fix. And they're just ruin, destroy, kill. But that's what they do. So yes, it's not sustainable, and they will not ever change. And so my question in the end is Emily, I hear you. I agree with you. We have to finish it. We have to get the world to stop propping them up. But
how?
This is like a runaway train that has no brakes. There's no brakes. There's no emergency brake. They're not even on a track anymore. They're just whatever they can destroy, they're going to destroy. So what do you do?
Unlike Afghanistan, unlike Iraq, Iran has a different history, and the people want something different. And this is a huge population that has already shown that they're capable of running a country much more properly than what is happening now. So we need to have a united front against the Islamic Republic. That includes cutting off diplomatic relations. What is Europe doing? Yeah. What are they doing? Why are they still even allowing embassies?
No strategy.
There's no strategy for regime change. Yeah. That's the problem. Yeah. They kind of, like you said, they just want to manage them rather than actually get rid of them, which we should be doing for their own people. Forget us, forget the world. They are the unstable force of the world, but their own people are miserable, starving and thirsty.
And their own people want a revolution, not reform. After the Green Revolution, I think pretty much everybody ruled that out. And they saw that the Islamic Republic itself, and even if you look at the structure of the regime, Everything goes back to the Ayatollah. Everything goes back to the principle of Islamic jurisprudence, it's called in English. Everything is the entire structure is built like this.
Yes.
There is no reforming that.
No.
There's no reforming
There's
that.
no
The only
reform.
option is bringing down the regime.
Absolutely. There's no reform. The reformists are fake. I mean, their children are having a whale of a time in Europe and America, but everybody else is miserable in that country. And so here we are, ladies and gentlemen, in the Middle East. We believed that we destroyed the Ring of Fire, which was the architects were Iran. We have enemies of Hamas in the south that now looks like have been seriously weakened. At least we have a buffer zone, but they're not gone. 150 of them are stuck in a tunnel, which, by the way, they wanted to use to negotiate for the body of Hadar Goldin until actually even Turkey had to get involved and say, no.
Yes, but now Turkey said they're civilians, that there's 150 to 200 civilians
Yeah,
in the tunnel.
civilians trapped in explosives in the tunnel. Yeah, they're civilians. At least we know that they've stored away enough food to feed themselves. And I'm very, very pleased that Israel is standing strong with either surrender or die.
Yep.
And really, we cannot let these people go.
Agreed.
And, you know, I keep hearing that the Americans want us to use this as a model for providing immunity so that Hamas can go and leave. And this is going to be like the little pilot project. No. Terrorists who are stuck in a tunnel, who tortured our hostages, who killed our soldiers, are not going to get a free pass to a 5-star hotel in Egypt. Because you're asking us to. And that is something that, honestly, I would go on the streets to protest against. Absolutely. And I think that there's consensus in this country. And so here it is, another week in wonderful sunny Israel that you chose to fly into. At least the flights are back. The flights are back,
Flight is
ladies and
cheap.
gentlemen. Really?
Yeah, I had 3 seats to myself.
Oh my.
I don't know what El Al are doing, but they had a new 777.
They're being forced to compete.
No, I
for
know.
one.
They've forced to compete again. It's
Sure, because the others are back.
Well, they put a new flight in, which with the others back, I don't really understand, but had 3 seats to myself. I was in poor person business class. When you stretch out, it costs 3 seats.
Oh.
And that's the only reason really I'm here. It cost me like nothing to come.
Oh, that's good to know.
Why be sad in London when you can be in the
Well,
sun?
that's exactly. Despite all of that,
That's our
you
tagline.
walk down the majority of the streets in Tel Aviv, all the shuk in Jerusalem, and you're still having a whale of a good time here in Israel. All right. Well, now we have so many scumbags to talk about. We go on to our favorite segment, Scumbag of the Week. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Scumbag of the Week. I have to say, I get stopped down the street regularly, Scumbag of the Week. And people come up to me and volunteer scumbags all the time. I enjoy it all. And here we are back with the Scumbag of the Week, Shoshana.
My scumbags of the week. I was actually in Paris 2 weeks ago. When I wasn't here, I was in Paris and then London. And so it was really shocking a little bit, even more so, to see this video. My scumbags of the week are the people who set flares inside the performance of the Israeli Philharmonic in Paris. Watch this. It's terrifying. Like, you don't know what you're looking at, and there's like fire in a there's fire, flames shooting in Paris, and you know, obviously you can be anywhere at any time, but like it was a little bit close that I was not that close to me, but close to the people who were there. I've loved Paris. I had a great time, even though I was doing some difficult work. And they are my scumbags for being just complete buttholes. Sorry, I can't say scumbags of the week.
That's and we have scumbag.
I know, but I want to think there's so many other words.
Oh, yes.
But the Philharmonic responded by playing Takeover, which is like so Israeli. And their audience stood up, and it was just like, oh, they did flares in the middle of the performance. Okay, now we're doing Takeover. I was going to stand up. The Israelis, the Jews were just like, this is just another Tuesday. So you're my scumbags of the week, and that's probably the biggest thing you'll ever do in your lives.
You know, it's amazing how these scumbags are basically ruining every cultural experience.
Yes.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And I've got a feeling that people are getting a bit fed up about it. I mean, I hope.
I hope so.
I mean, I'm fed up of watching it already. People are just, regular people.
What's that chant that they do in Britain?
Oh, we're going to talk about that in a second.
How do you say it in French?
Ooh, let me think about that. Okay. Stephen, your first ever, I mean, on the show.
On the show.
Yeah.
I've had many scumbags in my life,
course
so
you
it means. And I know Emily was there, so this is going to be a fun one. But I particularly want my scumbag this week to be Chief Constable Craig Guilford of the West Midlands Police. And the reason for him is I'm a football fan. People don't often think that about me, but I'm a diehard Leyton Orient supporter, which I should have got help for years ago.
Late.
We're gonna say.
Leyton Orient. I know.
What?
I know, Judge. No one's heard of them around here, so it's
All
fine.
right, no.
But Craig Guilford,
Why?
my dad, generational trauma, just Jews basically. I look after their Jewish supporters club as well, which is a new thing we started because I don't do enough Jewish groups in the day. I do them at night as well.
Enough for the Jewish people.
No, I really am. It's no Jews here. But Chief Constable decided on Wednesday before the match to put a statement out about how it was related to the hooliganism that was the reason that they weren't
The hooliganism
of the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans was the reason they weren't allowing them there.
Yeah.
Now, I've read the reports from Amsterdam, which is what this was based on, and it wasn't about the Jews. It was about the Jews being beaten up and being in hospital. And then I watched what happened because I was here. I would have been there with the other amazing people that went and counter-protested like Emily, but I was in the sun. It's difficult decisions. And I looked at what happened. There was 10 arrests. One was a firework thrown into the ground. 2 were racially aggravated hate towards the Jews. And one was someone not taking their mask off. Now, I've been with people like Emily protesting, we don't wear masks, so we know what was going on there. And then also outside were people saying things like, we should not have mercy on the Maccabi fans who are IDF killers. So really, Mr. Chief Inspector, who's also currently being investigated for allegations of discrimination.
Ah, there you go. For who? Discriminating on who?
Racism and homophobia.
Oh, okay.
So really, was it the Jews? I don't think so. So you just are my scumbag this week.
Absolutely. The minute I saw that video, I thought, what BS? This guy's now justifying retroactively a decision about hooliganism that never happened.
It got overturned. Maccabi Tel Aviv were offered tickets and said, actually,
No, we don't
gonna
want,
pass.
because you can't protect us.
Right.
And they were right. Emily, that brings us to your scumbags.
Yes, so my scumbags were the protesters at the Aston Villa Maccabi Tel Aviv game. Now, just so everyone understands the context, who maybe doesn't follow all of English football.
First of all, I'm very impressed you said football and not soccer.
Correct.
So well done, Emily.
I always say that. It's a habit, I guess, now. But yeah, so they actually banned all fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv under the false premise that, you know, there was too much hooliganism, which is highly ironic when you look at some of the racist and sexist and homophobic and pro-violence chants that we hear from pretty much every football club in the UK, and not just in the UK, in the whole world. Like if you look at what they're actually chanting in like South America, as I'm sure you know, it's craziness.
The whole thing's
craziness.
crazy.
I mean, Israel's got nothing on some of the stuff that's going on, so it's ridiculous.
we
but
invented it. And we invented the things that come.
you're the OGs.
Really
Yeah.
now.
Yes.
So I did end up getting tickets to this game as an Aston Villa fan, not for Maccabi Tel Aviv. That section was completely empty in the stadium.
They closed the entire section?
Yeah, it was empty.
That's ridiculous.
The pictures are crazy.
Yep.
Like half the ground is just nothing.
Yep.
So you had to get a ticket as an Aston Villa fan?
Yeah.
And then what happened?
And I cheered for Aston Villa, and I'll tell you why. Because the club was against this ban.
Yeah.
Their fans were against this ban. And the fans who were actually in the stadium were extremely supportive. They were even supportive of Maccabi Tel Aviv. Of course, they weren't cheering for them, but they were respectful. You know, overall, it was a very good environment, which is not, you know, necessarily obvious at a football game. And so I really appreciate how the fans spoke out against it from the very beginning. And the reason that the protesters who are outside are my scumbags are because they're not even fans of Aston Villa.
No.
They held this big protest with thousands of anti-Israel protesters chanting about Palestine, waving flags of the Islamic Republic. Almost all of them at some point or another had their faces covered, which of course is against the law in the UK. Police, in the majority of cases that I saw, did absolutely nothing. When there was a counter-protest of pro-Israel voices who were marched through with police escorts on every corner to protect them from these Islamist mobs, they brought them into the basketball court, which was fully caged, yes, caged in, which is why there were people talking about how it was a Jew cage. It was a really, really disgusting thing to see just visually outside of the stadium. However, I myself wasn't involved in that protest because I was going actually to the game. Inside the game is where I, at one point, was actually pulled out of my seat along with the other 3 people that were with me because I had the audacity to wear a shirt that said Zioness on it and despite the fact that I was wearing a sweater the entire game because it was cold, I took a picture with that shirt during halftime, which prompted someone, I wonder what leanings ideologically they have, reported to the stadium that there was a Maccabi Tel Aviv fan. There was a Maccabi Tel Aviv fan. Accused me of wearing a football shirt of Maccabi Tel Aviv, which of course I wasn't. It wasn't even the same colors. Mentioned nothing about that. It was blue and white, not even Maccabi blue, saying Zionist. Yes. So they pulled me out in the presence of dozens, literally dozens of police and stewards from the stadium to interrogate me about what my shirt was, and if it was indeed a Israeli football club, which of course would be the end of the world. It wasn't, and once it was determined what Zionist means, they permitted me to go back to my seats. Now, to their credit, they were very polite. But the fact that you would interrogate someone this way over such a ridiculous complaint is absurd and indicates what the problem is overall in the first place. And this is the reason that Maccabi Tel Aviv said, we don't want the tickets. We don't want our fans to go there because you can't protect us. And one more thing about Birmingham, which is the crazy Islamist hellhole, is that before the game, the Islamist protesters, again, not Aston Villa fans, had put up signs all over the city saying, genocidal baby killers, Maccabi Tel Aviv players, that they've been in Gaza murdering children, which of course there's no evidence of this. And I remind you that Maccabi Tel Aviv is comprised of Israeli Arabs and Jews, both.
Absolutely.
And beyond that, they also had signs that said, if you identify as Zionist, call this hotline. So of course I took a photo with this.
They found you.
They found
But it was just a really ugly, sad scene. I know a lot of the anti-Israel groups were also conversing during the actual game, saying that they were trying to identify which hotels the players are in,
they didn't
which hotels that fans are in, to try to identify them. So pretty much when the game was over, we got out of Dodge and didn't want to hang out in Birmingham too long. But I think it was important that there were some voices who were pushing back against that, both the counter protesters and also myself and the others who came with me to attend this game. And it's also important that Aston Villa fans spoke out the way that they did. So I applaud them for that. But my scumbags are these hideous protesters. And I will double down on your scumbag with the police, because the fact that they knew this was going to happen for weeks, and they allowed that protest to take place. And you would have thought that Palestine was playing in a football match. But nope.
The schools
They're politicizing everything about sport. It's outrageous.
They shut some of the schools early.
To come out to protest.
Just because there were things going on in Birmingham.
Oh my God.
Yep.
They're so screwed.
No, it's
Birmingham's
really
beautiful.
It's really bad, and really it's an omen, or it's like a window into more things to come, I think, unless there's a drastic change. But well done to you, Emily, for going
my life.
for risking your life. You are a true Zionist. And honestly, it's just, I mean, if you're arresting Emily and her friend for wearing a T-shirt, then where have you gotten to? It's really ridiculous.
Yes, we're violent hooligans.
Violent hooligans, yes. At least you're glamorous violent hooligans. All right, well, I'm sticking with the UK. And my scumbags this week, and we've had them on before, but this is very specific, are the BBC, but especially the two people who resigned yesterday. Tim Davie, who is the head of the BBC, and Deborah Turness, who is the head of news for the BBC. And I always love a scumbag with a happy ending, but let's just go. Let's just go through why the BBCs are such scumbags, and why this guy and this woman, the buck stops with them for having 5 years of terribly biased news coverage, especially, of course, the last 2 years during the Gaza war. They essentially became the spokespeople for Hamas, yes, a terrorist organization. First of all, they refused to call them terrorists. They were calling them armed whatever. Let's just go through some of the examples. They got the whole Al-Ai hospital wrong. They claimed that we had bombed and killed hundreds of people. It turned out to be a rocket from Hamas or Islamic Jihad, and only a few people were dead when it was their rocket, of course. Then they told, a BBC presenter said, that Israeli forces were targeting people and medical teams when in fact the quote was translated wrong. Surprise, surprise. And they said, yes, sorry, we had to retract. There were some medical teams amongst the people, but it wasn't a target. Then they went on to say that we committed, we were doing a forced starvation, famine. They took pictures of kids that was staged and said this is famine. They took pictures of, like the New York Times, of course, of kids who had congenital illnesses and said we were starving them. And of course, they did that very famous BBC documentary where they took a little boy and his terrible life in Gaza, except that he was a son of a Hamas minister. And they didn't bother to check. And even when they found out, they didn't care much. But none of this would have moved this Tim Davie and Deborah Turners to leave. But what had to happen for them to actually admit that they are the heads of a rotten Islamist news outlet when they took a tape of Donald Trump and they sliced and diced it to make it sound like he was calling on people to storm the Capitol. Look at this.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell.
Then it turned out that they took a sentence from here and a sentence from there and a sentence from there, and they very dishonestly put it all together.
We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. One of our great achievements will be election security, because nobody until I came along had any idea how corrupt our elections were. I said, something's wrong here, something's really wrong, can't have happened, and we fight. We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
And so none of the anti-Jewish hatred or anti-Israel bias, that couldn't move them, because that was really their raison d'etre. What did move them was when the White House said, what is this? And that was real manipulation. But we know that that manipulation that they did with Trump was only the cherry on the cake of the manipulation that they've been doing against Israel and against Jews for the last few years, especially during the war. So like I said at the beginning, I love a scumbag with a happy ending. And the happy ending here is that Tim Davie and Deborah Turners, you're out. And let's hope that the BBC can be redeemed by bringing some serious, unbiased journalists to essentially what is the government's broadcast service, which is paid for by the British taxpayer. And if they don't, I would suggest that the British taxpayer stop paying their license fees, because this is a joke. You're being paid to be indoctrinated by a bunch of haters. So that's my scumbags of the week.
You know, it really just shows you that when they get away with doing this to Jews,
yeah, eventually,
when they get away with doing, and nobody catches them out, and nobody protests it, and they don't get in trouble with their jobs for faulty misinformation journalism, it's like, oh, well, maybe we can keep going. Maybe we can keep. No, you're a liar from the beginning to the end, but you were only caught when you did it with Trump. And I say to everyone at home, like, if you see someone who's being dishonest and manipulative when it comes to Jews, just be aware, pull your lens back a second, because there's a reason they're doing that, and it's not for your benefit.
Well, I think the part that's even more shocking about it is that the part of the reason this all came out now is because there's evidence, so there are internal memos about them knowing that stories they were reporting are false.
And they still ran the story. It fits their narrative. So it wasn't about you telling the news, it was about you fitting the story that you concocted.
I haven't watched the news at home since I got back from Israel after October 7th. Wow. Because I turned it on.
GB News are okay.
GB News is about the only one.
Yeah.
It kills me because it looks like it's filmed on a potato and it needs to deal with that. But I came home from Israel where I was watching the news, which was, I could barely understand. It's not good quality.
No,
I could barely understand it, but I could see visually what was going on.
Yeah.
And I came back from man on a kibbutz with a camera, bad things, list of names, and I got back home to 4 people in the studio like this saying, well, you know, what we think they're saying may have happened possibly is, and going on down this rabbit hole of like, sorry, I'm in the mamad dealing with the rockets coming, and we're not talking about that. So I decided, like, no news for me. Like GB News, I-24 is all I happen to occasionally watch because
And
it's not worth
JNS.
it. And Janice, obviously.
Of course. No, but really, it's what we've been saying for a long time, that they're not telling the news. They're just not telling the news. They've got a story, they've got an agenda, and everything is just, it's like Al Jazeera. And let's not even talk about BBC Arabia. I mean, they basically take their commentators are Hamas members. Their journalists are card-carrying Hamas members, and they never disclose the affiliation of their so-called journalists when they're interviewing them. And so this comes out as supposedly decent reporting. It's really... It just, like you say, Jews are always a canary in the mine. When you turn against the Jews, eventually it's coming for you, like that famous poem that we won't go back to. But we need our sanity, and that's why we always find heroes of the week. So, Shoshana, who's your hero this week?
Oh my gosh, I have watched this video so many times.
Yes.
Like, just take it out the trash. Yes. Jonathan Carton, you are my hero. Thank you for that visual. And I'm sorry that you had to go through what you went through. He was an IDF he is an IDF reservist who was speaking in Toronto. I believe his uncle was unfortunately murdered by a terrorist, and the terrorist was let out in this most recent deal to free the hostages. So he's speaking in Toronto, and what did you call them? Run-of-the-mill pro-Palestinian scumbags came to protest him and were actually increasingly violent, broke through a glass door into, like, really breaking through to the people who were, the Jews who were behind the door. And he's just like, forget this, takes himself out, and one by one takes him out. You have got to watch this video.
Touch them! You're not allowed to touch them! I'm cold!
You're moving.
You're not allowed!
Everyone's moving.
Don't touch me! This is a fight! Don't touch him! No!
And I just feel like every time that happens, like, I know, like, I'm not into football / soccer, I'm American, like, whatever. Football. But this is the kind of thing I get behind. I will watch this over and over again and cheer for my team, because this is the kind of stuff that makes me so happy to see, like, good people, or at least people who stand for their convictions.
just had
and they're just standing there like, don't stop, oh no. Like, what? Who are you? You've no backbone. You have no nothing. You just stand there with your mask, and you come and you scream, and then someone actually takes himself seriously and says, I'm not going to stand up. I'm not going to stand for this. I'm going to take you out. And you just get trashed out there, my friends, trashed out. And if you guys at home are like cheering for that guy, for those guys who like just stand there with their phones and their keffiyehs wrapped around them, you're on the wrong team.
Absolutely. But also, don't they sound like screaming zombies?
Oh, they're not.
Every single protest I see, it's like they're like hysterical. Zombies. That's what it seems to me. All
Can't talk to them. Even if you wanted to talk.
no brains. They're vapid. They don't.
It's crazy.
I mean, Jonathan is a friend of mine, and I loved the way he just like,
Love that video. You know, it's like bookmarked.
I texted him, and he's like, they just didn't know.
But he was hurt. Like, you know, we're laughing, but he had lacerations all through his
lacerations.
It needs to be in a GIF so we can just send it around.
Please don't be that. I just said, I do.
Kol hakavod, Jonathan. That's a great hero. Emily, who's your hero?
So my hero this week is Noga Erez, the Israeli artist, who has been targeted a lot over the past 2 years. She's spoken about how a lot of her gigs were canceled. We have a clip of her speaking.
Today, I got a call from my management saying that many of the festivals and media appearances that booked me have canceled my participation. Because I'm an Israeli. I really wish it was just one case, but the list kind of keeps growing. It's not for anything that I said. It's simply because I was born where I was born. I believe that boycotting artists will not bring any solution. I believe that banning songs and movies and plays and books, etc., is not gonna fix the world's problems. The world is full of so much suffering. The amount of pain happening right now is devastating. I've seen some of it with my own eyes. Maybe right now would be the best time for us to try and find common ground and not add to how shitty it already is.
So as you can see, unfortunately, one of the byproducts of this conflict and the politicization of everything arts and culture is that a lot of Israeli artists and athletes have been targeted in different circumstances. And despite the fact that they have nothing to do with the politics and in fact often are very critical of the Israeli government, it's never enough for the Jew haters. Now, Noga is very successful internationally. She has had a sold-out tour all over the world despite the war situation. But her closing show in Mexico City, she received dozens of death threats, of violence. They tried to get her to cancel the show. They warned her that she would be assaulted along with her team and the fans if she went forward with the show. She went forward with the show anyway, as she should, so kol hakavod to her for that. And they did try to, there was a lot of security, they did try to attack some of the fans and the team, and I think this is disgusting. But I have to say to her, in response to all of this hatred, I'm just, kol hakavod. I mean, standing up to that is not, it's not obvious, it's not an easy thing, and you shouldn't have to do it. You shouldn't have to do it, and the fact that you are just because of where you were born and your nationality is ridiculous. And I just want to play one more clip of Noga responding to the BDS haters and some of the comments. Take a look.
You won't do what you tell me. You very, very much. Trying to boss me around, but you're cozy and sun. Boy, you left me to drown, to swim with all of the sharks. 'Cause it's a up world, no one to trust, no peace, no pension, no fun. And I refuse all joy and
So Noga Erez, you're my hero of the week.
Nice. Exactly. These artists don't want to be dealing with this. They just want to sing.
Yeah.
They just want to be who they are. Absolutely. All these artists who've shown such mettle in the last few years. Good for them. Steven.
Wow, so many options for heroes as much as there are options for scumbags,
Yes.
which is really, really cool. So I'm going a very different direction, but the work that I've been doing recently is supporting Jews in their workplace Jewish groups. So a lot of the big companies have started, I started the one at Amazon. It was a nightmare.
Explain to us what this is.
So it's kind of like a JSOC or a Hillel, but at work.
At work.
So
Very
there's a lot of like these diversity, equity, inclusion groups where we have the Black Employee Network, the Asian Employee Network, whoever. And my thing at Amazon was, I did a long training, didn't see any mention of Jews. I said, where are the Jews? And someone said to me, start a group.
Right.
It was a endless paperwork and nightmares, and you're just a religion. We don't do religions. And we could do a whole 3-hour episode on the things that I see. But as much as it's tough work, it's really important work, and it's really kind of changing the space a little bit for Jews in the workplace, especially since the war, who came back to work on October the 9th, the people writing Free Palestine on their workplace Slack channel. Like many companies saw that sort of thing, and Al Jazeera being shared on the company resources. And then you see Microsoft a few weeks ago who had encampments on their actual campus. They broke into the president's office and they're demanding all these things. So it's a little bit crazy, but also people just want to be in their little Jewish community at work because they don't know how to talk about what's going on. It doesn't have to be physical. They just want a little channel. So my heroes are all of these people that are doing their full-time job and then deciding to, on the side, be the Jewish leader in that space. It's really tough. They're countering anti-Semitism, hate, and doing positive things. There's like 100 Hanukkah parties about to go on in big companies that you'd never think would do a Hanukkah party or do a Purim party or throw out apple and honey at Rosh Hashanah and honey cake. It was a honey cake tasting competition where people, so amazing, amazing things. So my heroes are all of those people that decided to stand up and lead. They've had their Hineni moment. They've said, here I am, I'm going to lead.
Very nice. Very
Oh, well done. And well done to you for leading the charge and starting the whole thing.
It's that I have to do it. I feel like there's no organization doing it. So my thing is I quit my job in tech. I had an amazing job in tech and I turned my back on it because it's really important that we support each other as Jews. So hopefully we're going to start moving. We're a non-profit now. We're doing all the fun things. The fundraising begins, which is just the best.
Oh, yeah.
So much
That's
time.
part of it. Well done. It's really important work. I know what you've done. And it's taking off. And I think that's what people don't realize about anti-Semitism. The more you hate us, the more we're like, okay, we're going to be a little bit more Jewish now. The Jewier we get. Okay, my hero this week is Ben Shapiro, because in a viper's den that has become the woke right in the Republican Party and the MAGA movement, whatever you want to see it, with scumbags that we've had in before, like Tucker Carlson, who is really determined to bring back old school medieval Christian anti-Semitism, and platforms famous haters like Nick Fuentes, who is a racist, a homophobe, a misogynist, says women want to get raped. This is the guy saying black people should have, basically chanting for apartheid, the real one, not the one they invent that doesn't exist over here. The scum of the earth, and the Tucker Carlson platforms this guy. People are beginning to normalize this guy and his terrible, terrible bigoted beliefs. And nobody's saying anything. And the head of the Heritage Foundation, which is one of the most important, if not the most important, right-wing conservative think tank in America, is saying, oh, why are you picking on Tucker? We don't believe in cancel culture. No, you had a responsibility. Your own people are doing a mutiny against you. But I'm not here to talk about scumbags. I'm here to talk about the one hero that has actually come out in the only, what's that expression in Hebrew that ends dom, where is the, where is the tzaddik? Exactly. So that's Ben Shapiro, who is unapologetically, even if he's lost followers, he doesn't care and he's not losing any sleep. But he went on the Megyn Kelly live shows that she did. He went on his own channel and basically took all of the most hideous opinions of Nick Fuentes and put them out on display for people to see who this little worm is and how the platforming is basically normalizing not just hatred towards the Jews, hatred towards everyone, and how everybody seems to be going along. Even the New York Times did an almost flattering piece on Nick Fuentes where they actually put, look at this, a picture where the little worm looks semi-attractive, which he isn't. That's the New York Times platforming racist. As long as they hate Jews, that's okay by them.
Not deserve.
Nazi, a Hitler fan, a Stalin fan. And Ben Shapiro did this extremely viral clip. I think it's gone more viral than the Nick Fuentes interview with Tucker Carlson, saying this is who this is. And anybody who's normalizing him or whitewashing him or softballing questions to him is complicit to this hatred. And it's, again, like you said, Shoshana, it's not just about the Jews. It only starts with the Jews. These people are bad news. And the fact that Ben Shapiro has to be the only guy who calls it out, I think is shameful that he's the only guy, but I want to give him the zchut and the credit for being the hero who's calling it out, because every generation needs one. And Ben Shapiro, that's you right now. So Ben Shapiro is my hero of the week.
So I actually have taken issue with Ben on various things, whether it's abortion, whether it's whatever.
On everything.
So, but what I want to say is this: as you're speaking, I'm thinking like, what if Ben wasn't in that position? Like, what if Ben had not been who he is with the positions and opinions that he has, and what if he had not gotten himself that type of platform and he wasn't there to do that work of saying, you're cheering a Nazi?
Yeah.
Because if someone from the Democratic Party or someone who is left-leaning or whatever, even centrist, who were to do that, they wouldn't go viral like that. And so I feel like, they talk about Queen Esther, like who knows if this is the reason you got to the throne, you became the queen. And I do wonder if this is maybe Ben Shapiro's Queen Esther moment. Like maybe this, to fight this insanity in his own party, is why he built the platform that he has built over the years and gotten the respect that he's gotten and built up the following that he has. And I do wonder, this is what Jews believe in, right? Like, this is my job. Like you said, I had a great job in tech, but my people need me. And so.
But Ben Shapiro, it's not just that he's an Orthodox Jew, he's a big American patriot.
Absolutely.
So when he does this because he knows this is bad for America.
For sure.
And I really admire him. Again, like you, I don't agree with everything he says.
Yeah.
But he's the only guy coming out and talking about this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few others. I know Dinesh D'Souza.
Yeah, Dinesh, and also the Officer Tatum has come out.
Yeah.
There are the conservative, but in terms of like going all out there to dissect who this worm is, Nick Fuentes?
Because Ben he's intellectually, he has intellectual integrity, which is something that we're seeing be compromised, of course, on the left in the past few years.
Oh,
with
they're gone.
Democratic Socialists of America and how they've sort of subverted that movement, and now they're doing it on the right, and a lot of it is Qatar. and other nefarious actors within the right. But instead of actually sticking to their own conservative principles, they are excusing people because they're friends with them. And by the way, also Megyn Kelly, wow, the way that Ben destroyed her in that interview, unbelievable. And he's ripping her arguments apart, and she's saying, "Oh well, I didn't watch." Really? But your job is literally to have an opinion. You're a pundit. You should have an opinion. What is this? Oh well, I'm not going to have opinions about people who say things on the right.
I know, and she's not my friend. But when he talks about Candace Owens, but when she interviewed Tucker Carlson, and she was asking him only a few difficult questions, he was so rude to her.
Yeah, he was.
He was so rude. He's actually, as we say in Spanish, an antipático. Antipati, you know what I mean? It's like he's just not nice.
Yeah.
The turning point had him to doing one of these events, and somebody asked him a question, and he was still not nice to them. He doesn't have the charm and the kindness of Charlie Kirk. Like, why? I hope that his star is going to start to fall, because it has to.
Yeah.
I mean, and however much Qatar props him up,
propped up. Yeah.
for sure he's been propped up by Qatar, and really that's another. We talked about Iran a lot, but Qatar is also the one to 100% try and bring down.
Yep.
So with that happy note, and with our heroes, we brace ourselves for what the next week will bring. Hopefully good news, and hopefully the rest of our fallen heroes coming home for a dignified burial. And with that, we also pray for peace and quiet. Thank you for watching.